am so in love with the Pentax Q cameras and lenses, and I have been for many, many years. I've always wanted to review this camera on this channel, but I was an idiot, and originally the Pentax Q that I owned I sold in around 2014-ish. But this year I happened upon a Pentax Q10 in a second-hand shop and could not pass it up. So let's take a walk down memory lane and see where Emily's obsession with tiny cameras originated. For those of you who don't know, the Pentax Q, or the Q10, there's a few iterations of it at this point, but just for the sake of ease, I'm going to call it the Pentax Q throughout this video. The Pentax Q is the world's smallest interchangeable lens digital camera. It's pretty much based on the sort of analog Pentax camera that's the dinkiest one in the world, but the digital version. They're both super cute. It has a 12 megapixel sensor, which is meep. The Q10 and the newer version has a slightly bigger sensor, but also it's meep. It's negligible, so it's a tiny, tiny sensored camera. It has 12 megapixels, it shoots RAW. It has 1080p video at 30 frames a second, so not the greatest for video, but it's there, and for the size of it, yay. It also has built-in stabilization, well before its time. The Q came out originally in 2011 for reference. It also even has built-in ND filters. How cool is that? I also love that while it does shoot RAW, it does have built-in filters as well. You have sort of the selective colour, you have vintage, you have monochrome, etc. And there's a little dial on the front of the Pentax Q that you can customise. So if you're going out shooting for street photography or on holiday, you can just change your sort of dial at the front and mess with the filters. And if you shoot RAW plus JPEG, which it also does, you're not tied down to that filter in editing. I originally took this to Toronto and I was a little bit filter happy, but I cannot describe how much fun this camera is. Is it professional? No, no it's not. Is there much better cameras on the market? Hell yes. But for something that just gets you out and shooting, blooming love it. If I'm in a bit of a rut, even now I'll pick up the Q10 and stick it in my bag and just have fun with it. The Pentax Q has its own mount, it's called a Q mount, very imaginative, and all the lenses are named sort of 01, 02, 03, etc. And you have actually a really good selection. You have a fisheye, you have a stock, you have a zoom, you have some toy lenses, you have a fast prime, though fast is relative when the sensor is meep. But just the idea that you can take this teeny tiny camera out and a handful of lenses, like, it's just ridiculously fun to play with. So these examples, pardon my 2013-ish photography skills. I was a fan of those leading lines, boy was I. But it's nice to see where you were to where you are now. And I just felt like an absolute boss walking around Toronto with this tiny little camera just documenting everything. No one sort of looked twice because the camera is so small, and it's just awesome to look back on. I've had the same joy now with the Q10, which is a slightly plasticier build quality, but for all intents and purposes basically the same, and taking it out for walks with the dog and things like that. It's super cool. This is kind of a thing for hobbyists. If you are one of these sort of eBay watchers like I am, sometimes you can get bargains for the Q10. You can get them with a number of lenses, you can get them in all different colours. So let me reiterate, it's not something to be taken too seriously, but if you want something that is just fun and gets you out of a rut, and something that you can just take with you and just have a laugh with, blooming great. Also bonus points for the most adorable flash in the world. If you need a little bit more than just fun to justify a purchase, because of the tiny sensor, many people in this little sort of cult following around the Pentax Q have used it incredibly successfully by adapting other lenses and using it as a macro lens. Because if you think of the crop factor, you know, you could stick a relatively normal lens on and it would suddenly become macro dreams. So have a look in the forums if you are interested in this camera. There are so many people doing wonderful things in terms of macro photography with it, so you could get extra value out of it in that way as well. But let's be honest, this isn't a logical purchase. You know, the amount of cameras I've got a GH5 and whatever, but some days you just want to take out a Pentax Q and just not take yourself too seriously and just have fun with it. Speaking of street photography, the zoom lens, which I think is number 2 in the lineup, is blooming brilliant. It's teeny tiny, so nobody would ever suspect that you were taking photographs sort of far away with it, but you can get very sharp, wonderful results. I had it last time, sold it because I'm an idiot. Really want to buy it again. I want to get the full set, to be honest, because I'm sad. But if you would like to see what the other lenses can do, I will leave a video below which will be probably much more informative than this one and show you just exactly what you can get out of this camera. So let me know, am I crazy for sort of having this camera when there's no actual need for it? But I think, you know, other people buy shoes and handbags. I buy cameras. It's my thing, and it doesn't have to be a sensible purchase every single time. Sometimes you buy from the heart. Thank you so much for watching.